Aloha, everybody. It is I, the Great Clement, and because I'm doing my WrestleGamia, and I'm going to be, doing a retrospective on wrestling, I know a lot of people don't want to tune into that because they're not big fans of wrestling. So I decided to tackle two games from my nostalgic childhood that I absolutely wanted to share. First up would be Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the Super Nintendo, based off of the hit TV show of the same name. So in case you weren't raised in the 90s and you don't know anything about the Power Rangers, here's the gimmick. There's this evil sorceress witch woman, right? Her name? Rita Repulsa. She was trapped on the moon for 10,000 years, and now she's free! Free to conquer Earth! And then this blue-headed bulb of a guy named Zordon. I don't know what Zordon's supposed to be. I just know he's a disembodied blue head in a tube. I'm not kidding. If you've seen Power Rangers, you know what I'm talking about. But there's a disembodied blue head in a tube who talks to his robot assistant, Alpha. And he goes, "Alpha, Rita's escaped. Send me 5 teenagers with attitude." And so they really picked 5 random teenagers from a high school. I guess they had some kind of integrity or moral compass, but they all happened to be friends with each other too. Like this really close-knit group of friends who were already hanging out, who were already dressing in the same colors every day of their lives for some fucking reason. They get summoned by Zordon, and they get summoned to become the Power Rangers, defenders of truth and justice. They have to stop Rita Repulsa from conquering the Earth. Although Rita Repulsa doesn't seem to try conquering the entire planet. Instead, she just tries to conquer, I think the town is called Valley High or something. Or that's the high school, Valley High. But they're in Valley or something? I could be getting that detail wrong. I always forget what the town is called. But you know. I just love this concept. You have this fucking space sorceress woman from outer space who lives on the moon. She even has a fucking tower on the moon. You'd think the astronauts at NASA would have discovered this tower, I guess. But apparently not. No. Either she built it really quick or it's hiding behind some kind of invisible force shield so they can't see the tower. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But Rita Repulsa sends her putties. That's the nameless goons that I'm beating up on in this particular level. And they're just going to conquer the world, one city at a time. Unfortunately, she keeps trying to conquer this one city. And these 5 teenagers, who with the power of their morphing tools, Pterodactyl, transform into the Power Rangers. That's the premise of the show. I'm probably recapping it for people who already know about this show, but I just figured I'd inform the uninitiated. So, this game's a beat-em-up, as you could probably already guess. Based off of a hit kids TV show that I used to love watching when I was a kid. And this one has a fantastic friggin' soundtrack. It has really great control. And it was just a guilty pleasure for me. What could I say? I mean, it's not the hardest game in the world. I didn't really find this to be too challenging. But in terms of fun, in terms of just balls-to-the-wall awesomeness, you really can't go wrong with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. There are 5 levels in the game, not including the 2 final bosses. And because there are 5 Power Rangers, I'm going to be alternating each level with a different Ranger. The good thing about this game is that you get to choose any of the 5 Rangers that you want right off the bat. You know, if you want to be the Yellow Ranger, Pink Ranger, Red Ranger, Black Ranger, you can. You know, there's nothing stopping you from being whichever character you want to be. And every time you finish a level, you get to stay with that character, or you can choose a different character. So even when you finish a level, you get to choose a character selection again, you know, which I like. Because usually in a game like, say, Mega Man X4, if you chose X, you're X throughout the entire game. If you chose 0, you're 0 throughout the entire game. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is cool like that, where, you know, you could play one level with Kimberly, the Pink Ranger, and then in the next level you could be Jason, the Red Ranger. So, you know, you get to experiment with all the different Ranger types. So Kimberly, she always wears pink in school. She's the incredibly hot teenager who I had quite the crush on when I was a kid. Played by Kimberly Jo Johnson, I believe. She's just so awesome. Actually, in the show, the Pink Ranger actually has a skirt on, but because this Super Nintendo game didn't bother changing the sprites for any of the Power Rangers, she doesn't have a skirt in her Pink Ranger form. All of the Rangers pretty much look identical, and the only real difference between the fighting styles are just sometimes the weapons can be operating a little bit differently, and when they're in their human forms, they tend to do different animations as well. The good thing about playing as the Pink Ranger is you get access to a bow and arrow. It's not a very strong bow and arrow. It's the equivalent of one weak punch. But it is a long-range weapon, so you can keep putties at bay and beat them up. And, you know, it's all fantastic. But we're at the end of the first level, and this is the first boss. This guy is known as Bones. Quite a creative name, no? When you saw him when I started the fight off, I actually unleashed this super bomb attack on him. Basically, as soon as you turn into a Power Ranger, you get the option to activate this bomb move with the Y button, or the X button, I believe. And this bomb move attacks everything on the screen for a short period of time. You generally want to save it up for the boss fights because, you know, it can make the boss fights go by that much quicker. It can drain their health, especially since a few of these bosses are teleporting motherfuckers. And it's just a good way to damage them without having to, you know, catch them, shall we say. That was the first boss, though. Bones is pretty simple. I mean, he loses more bones and more bones and more bones the more you hit him, but he's nothing we can't handle. We're Power Rangers, damn it! So for the next level, I think I'll be Trini, the Yellow Ranger, the Asian. I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding Trini and Zack, because Trini is the Asian student, and she's the Yellow Ranger, and I guess people think it's racist to associate an Asian with the color yellow. And then there's Zack, the black teenager, and he is the Black Ranger. I didn't really find any big deal. I mean, they're just colors, you know. It's like the Shadow the Hedgehog Black Arms argument where, oh my god, you called them the Black Arms, racist! And it's like, what? I mean, maybe you could see it being racist, making the Asian yellow. I don't see it, but, you know. Just figured I'd comment on that. So our basic enemy types for this game are the putties. In the show, they were generally always gray, and every time the Rangers hit them, they always had this really loud clanking sound, you know? Makes me feel like, I think the putties were supposed to be made of metal or something. That's what made them a significant threat. And that's why they had to transform into the Power Rangers, because when they get the power suits and they actually become the Rangers themselves, I think they just get so much more powerful, you know, and it helps them take out enemies like the putties, as well as Rita Repulsa's giant monsters that she likes to send down to Earth every now and then. Monsters who she forms out of clay, by the way. She literally makes them out of clay, and then she turns them to life with her magic. And then at the end of the show, if the monster is losing to the Power Rangers, she actually throws her scepter down to the planet. Make my monster grow! And she will make the monster gigantic! This show is fucking awesome. If you haven't watched the Power Rangers, shame on you. Get on that. And I'm not talking about, like, the newer Power Rangers. I'm not talking about, you know, Zeo or Turbo or In Space or Dino Force or Jungle Force or Dino Thunder. I don't know what the hell these are. But, the only TV shows I followed when it came to Power Rangers was, I followed the original series, the Mighty Morphin kind, the kind we are seeing in this video game. And, what else? Oh yeah, it was, Zeo, I believe. Zeo, and then Turbo, and then I pretty much gave up at Space. As soon as they entered Space, I kind of stopped following the Rangers, but, Mighty Morphin was the best season of all the seasons. It was the most memorable. Saber-tooth tiger! It was the most memorable. It was just the most fun. Probably because it was the first, and, you know, I just kind of like Rita Repulsa and Goldar and Jason and the Green Ranger Tommy. Tommy's not in this game, unfortunately. No, for some reason he didn't make the cut. Apparently this game came out after Tommy actually debuted on the show, so I don't know why. But, you know. Only the original 5 Rangers, no 6th Ranger. 6th. I always have trouble saying that word. I don't know why, but I do. Again, Kimberly was the only Ranger of the group who had the bow and arrow. Trini here doesn't really have anything all that particularly special. I mean, she uses size to attack people, and they don't really do anything special. She can't throw her size at people. They're just really a melee weapon, so you know. Unlike Kimberly, she did not wear a skirt, so this sprite is kind of accurate. Kind of. I mean, she's awfully muscular, I must say. I mean, I know it's a power suit and everything, but goddamn, Trini got some fucking gigantic muscles. What happened there? But the putties come in all kinds of different colors. You can tell what kind of putty they are by their colors. I mean, the gray ones are the basic ones. You punch the gray ones once, and they die. The purple ones are the beefier ones. You do one full combo on them, and they'll generally die. Actually, that's pretty much true for almost every putty. It's just the difference is, you know, if it's a dark green putty, he'll constantly keep jumping around so that your combo can't finish him off as fast as you'd like it to. There are blackish putties with shields, which you have to beat up on a lot in order to get rid of that shield. There's a whole bunch of putties we'll be seeing as this playthrough goes on, but yeah. Again, I cannot stress how great the control is in this beat-em-up. This one doesn't have any kind of blocking or countering system, but it just has really tight controls. I really love how the jumping is. It's not stiff like a Castlevania game would be. Like, if you're running and jumping in a Castlevania game, you're going to keep pushing forward until you land on the ground, you know what I mean? But in this game, you can kind of move your direction when you're jumping, and I appreciate that. As you're going to be seeing in this next section, the Rangers can actually grab onto bars, and by pushing the up button, they can swing up to a higher platform. They can actually drop down from a platform by pushing down on the jump button, which is always great in a kind of platformer. And they also have the ability to wall jump as well. When you jump at a wall, and then you push the jump button again, just as you are touching the wall, the Rangers will bounce off and they will get a little bit of extra height. It's not really necessary for boss fights or anything, just for the platforming sections, like right this point right here. Can't reach that, so wall jump. Yeah! Oh, I love this game. I cannot stress enough, the soundtrack of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the Super Nintendo is fantastic. I'll have to look up the composer for part 2, but really great soundtrack. I mean, this is when video game music was at its most pure, its most get you pumped for the game that you're playing, you know? Like, I remember I would just leave the game running. I wouldn't be playing Power Rangers. I'd just be listening to the soundtrack because it was so heroic and so awesome. The boss theme, I mean, it's one of the best friggin' boss themes you could ever have in a video game. I mean, this soundtrack pumps you up to be a Power Ranger, goddammit. I just love the appeal of these teenagers who turn into anime superheroes with friggin' colorful bodysuits and the motorcycle helmets and everything. It's so over the top, so awesome. How could you not like the Power Rangers? I mean, if you weren't raised in the 90s, kids, you gotta find a DVD collection. You gotta find the old Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I mean, yeah, it's kind of cheesy now. Well, most shows are when you're a kid, but you know, it's still fun. I still love this shit. I don't know why. It's an odd fascination I have. It's like wrestling. As you'll be seeing in future installments in WrestleGamia and as this playthrough goes on. I can't explain why I have the interests I do. I just really love the idea of these teenagers in these fucking bodysuits beating up putties and monsters and trying to save this one little town which keeps getting terrorized. And not the whole entire Earth for some reason. I don't know why it works like that. I don't know why Rita Repulsa just keeps attacking them. I mean, you'd think she'd move on to a different town because the Power Rangers wouldn't be there, and therefore it would be easier to take over. But then again, if she's expecting to take over Earth with, like, literally a group of putties, not like an army's worth of putties, she'll send, like, maybe 10 putties down there. Then maybe Rita Repulsa isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but, you know. This is Gnarly Gnome. Gnarly Gnome likes to transport and teleport throughout the level, so you gotta be careful about that. But as you can see, as long as you just stay in one particular spot, you can generally warp where you are and you can beat them up that way, so it's not too bad of a fight. Yeah, Gnarly Gnome's got shit on me. Just gonna keep standing in this one spot, and he's just gonna keep spawning right in front of me. Nothing he could do. This isn't a valid strategy I always have. This is just random luck. I don't usually get this good. And now it's not working for me, as you can see. How does that gnome travel all over the place like that anyway? I mean, where do you get an ability like that? Is he running at super speed? Is that the idea? How could a gnome be that fast? How could a gnome be that fast? I must ask. Either way, that was the first part of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you in part 2. Toodles.